How did you grow grenade bars from 500 quid to 500 million pounds?
How long have you got?
Alan Barratt, the CEO of Grenade.
One of the UK's fastest growing brands.
The next billion-dollar brand.
I dropped out of school. Education just wasn't for me. And I learned really early on, personality gets you a long way. We are disrupting confectionery. We didn't invent protein bars. We invented good ones, and we just gave consumers an alternative.
Oh, wow.
We got the tank out on the road.
The big orange tank. What, Haskell on there as well?
That's right.
Haskell's
Haskell's
on the front.
Yeah, he was on the front.
Driving
He was on the front. Can't do this stuff on your own. I defy
100%.
anyone to do it on your own.
Agree.
You've got to have someone behind you.
It must get in the way of having a relationship.
As the brand became successful, the marriage became least successful. You know, we just ended up really as business partners.
What was the different types of pressure you were under?
The best example I could think of is
Al, welcome to the show, mate.
Hi, Dodge, for the second time.
Yes,
Part two.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Let's roll all the way back. How did you grow grenade bars from 500 quid to 500 million pounds?
How long have you got?
An hour.
And is the camera? I can't do it in an hour. Is the camera recording this time?
We're on. We're on. We're ready to go.
Oh, how far do you want to go back?
Just touch over your childhood, and, then let's get into the business nuts and bolts.
Okay. I mean, look, as there's always a good entrepreneurial story, isn't there, behind all these brands? They're always extensions of their founders.
Hi guys, just giving you the quick heads up. We've just launched a new VIP membership on Patreon. This gives you exclusive episodes, behind the scenes footage never seen before, VIP community chat, and early access to all episodes. If you love what we do, for the sake of a cheeky pint a month, £5 a month, come and support the channel. It allows us to grow even bigger.
And going right back to when I was a kid, I'm actually, you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from Birmingham. So I grew up in Hall Green in Birmingham, but my mum and dad had got a caravan on the south coast in Poole, actually up the road. So all my childhoods, really, my weekends and all holidays, I didn't go abroad till I was like 18. All my holidays were down in the caravan, down in Poole. And then my youngest memory is standing at the fence for the Royal Marine Commando Training Centre over just by Poole Harbour, watching the military guys train. So from my earliest memory, really, I always wanted to be a Royal Marine. So I was always fascinated with the military, and also the performance behind the military as well. And I was never really a sort of sporty kid at school, so I was never interested in all the conventional sports that my mates were interested in, like football and whatever. But both my grandparents had sort of fought in World War II. And then there's all this amazing military history around here. And then in the 90s, and you'll remember this, I don't know if you're a fan, but like all of the big action films, the 90s, like the late 80s, that was the decade for the action film, wasn't it? So Arnold, Stallone, Van Damme, what's the one thing they've all got in common? Because it wasn't obviously acting prowess, was it? They've all got these amazing physiques. The American wrestling's really popular at the time. I'm like 10 stone, wringing wet, quite academic at school, not interested in sport, bit of a nerd, but like the military, and I'm interested. I'm thinking, I want to look like this, I want to look like Arnold, so it's quite skinny. Everyone's just going to be Big Al for a joke. So ultimately, sort of 47 years later, my love of the military and my interest in fitness and weight training kind of culminated in a business that was started with a £500 UKTI passport to export loan and from a spare bedroom in Solihull at the time into a business now that's £500 million and growing. So pretty much 486 million, I think, to be exact.
Is that £486 million turnover?
No, so that's, so turnover this year probably be around about 120 million, something like that. It would be more if we could get the stock. Bearing in mind as well, that's, we do a lot now, sort of direct to consumer, off .com and whatever, but all of our customers really are wholesale customers. It's Amazon, Tesco's, Boots. I'm old school. I used to work in a shop, so I like shops. And, basically, we're a high performance food product now, but, this is all stuff that you buy in store when you're hungry to a certain extent. Yes, people stock up, to a certain extent at home, but if you're hungry, you can go online, but when's it going to turn up? So I worked in a shop when I was like 17. I worked in Workout World in Birmingham, and I just for a food brand, I've always been quite interested sort of in retail. And so all of our customers are big wholesale customers. So we've got now probably 200,000 locations. Just in the UK, you can buy our stuff. So, the rate of sale is phenomenal. Number one on Amazon, best-selling item on Amazon in food. So we were number one. Coffee's number two. So that the figures are mind blowing for me. And I'm an unqualified personal trainer from Birmingham, but if you think in terms of brand retail sales, because we're our bars now are like £3. We're not getting £3 for them. The retailer is and beyond, but we're not getting that. But in terms of retail
how
sales,
much would you be getting per bar roughly?
Oh, I couldn't possibly say. It's £2.99. No, but in terms of the actual, there's a lot of other direct consumer brands out there where they get the full benefit of the margin, don't they? Basically, we don't. But ultimately, in terms of retail sales, we'd be sort of 400-500 million each, but easily. But the figure I'm quoting is basically when Mondelez bought us and invested in Grenade back in 2021. Mondelez have made 2 investments in the UK. Mondelez, by the way, no one will have heard of it, but it's the spin-off arm of Kraft. So Kraft in the US is basically food. They own Heinz and whatever. It's so ridiculously big. You can imagine, really, they own food brands in America, so it's like a license to print money. They got so big they weren't allowed to acquire anything else, so they set up a little spin-off snacking business called Mondelez, and that little business bought Oreo, Dairy Lee, Philadelphia, Belvita. It's bought Chipita. It bought Cadbury.
And you're saying,
10, 15 years ago.
this is a little business.
This is the little business, with 100 billion market cap.
Yeah.
That little business has bought 2 businesses in the UK. One's Cadbury and the other one's Grenade. So we're now based at Bourneville. And they valued the business at 200 million back in 2021. Yeah. And that was on numbers at the time with sort of a 28 times EBITDA multiplier.
28 times EBITDA?
Yeah, it's unheard of.
So anyone listening, 28 times the net profit. That's mega.
It's unheard of. And since
Why
then,
such a high valuation, do you think?
Because I think of what we'd created and the nature of the brand in terms of what we were doing. And you can imagine, really. So the 500 million, by the way, comes from, the same multiplier now with our numbers. That's where we get to the 500 million. But the reason why such a punchy valuation is there's distinctiveness really of what we'd created and continue to create. How hard it is to get into the wider food business, the wider food market. Most businesses that start up now, and taking nothing away from them, because anyone who starts a business, fair play, and it's hard and it's getting harder. But, a lot of these Instagram type brands, they kind of grow D2C quite quickly. They know the consumers are. Try getting into retail. Yeah. They don't have elastic shelves.
Just explain to listeners how you'd describe retail.
Oh, yeah. So, but what I'm saying about retail, so, getting on shop shelves. Yeah. So I genuinely, it would be easier for me to probably say in the UK where we don't sell, and that's probably Starbucks. You could buy us in a Costa, just about 10,000 petrol stations in the UK. We'll be in all of those. And if you imagine, if you go into your local petrol station, what's in there? Bread, milk, tea, coffee, Cadbury's, Mars, just the very, very best known brands you can think of. Well, imagine you ought to get into a petrol station, someone else is coming out. Yeah. They don't have elastic shelves. So imagine, trying to get, and I'll go into this later, how we got into our petrol stations, because you've got to do the hand-to-hand combat and start somewhere. So you can imagine, to all those people, competitors, and they're all owned by Unilever and Mars and Mondelez, they've all got a lot more money than we have. So I think, to answer your question, why pay so much? We're 13 years in now. Number one selling item in food on Amazon. One of the highest rated selling items in supermarkets, growing rapidly across the world. Probably you'll find us in at least 80 to 100 countries, but with a really good solid footprint, a good 40. So
80 to 100 countries, that's unbelievable. There's 195 countries in the world.
Oh yeah, so within a year we were actually in 135 countries. We scaled it back. So, but by me saying that, we're in 40 with the footprint, that is like we've got a team over there, we've planted a flag there, and we're taking it seriously. And we are the number one bar, or we intend to be the number one bar. And, if we aren't number one, we will be, and we think we'll hold it for the next 20, 25 years. So that's basically how we think. If we can't do that with a country, we just won't bother. Yeah. So that's what we think of that. But again, just to answer your question, why pay so much? it's an unbelievably hard industry to get into. Making products is easy, but selling products difficult.
Yeah.
And again, we supply all UK military and special forces, and have done for years. And it's a very, very distinctive, protectable, trusted, credible brand with 200 trademarks, design marks,
200
patents.
trademarks.
Oh yeah, we trademark everything.
Wow, okay.
So that's where the money went over the years. We were buying trademarks and domains and protecting stuff and patenting stuff, and because it's a super copycat industry. But the nice thing with Grenade, and this was deliberate, it's a very, very distinctive thing. So to protect the name and the shape, it's really quite straightforward because it either looks like a grenade or it doesn't. Yeah. So there's there's no room for error there. So just in terms of the the quality of the brand really, and again the people, and we have and we are disrupting confectionery. And confectionery, if you think what's been disrupted over the years, taxis and hotels, with Airbnb and Uber and whatever, and there's a few things, and the drinks industry's been heavily disrupted. Confectionery hadn't. When we sort of looked at this and figured out what we wanted to do and move from sort of cutting edge sports nutrition into bars and take on the food industry as such, and take on the confectionery brands, which we've got nothing against. Like, we love chocolate. I grew up with Cadbury's, but you can't be eating it every day. So when we we wanted to put an alternative product out there that consumers will get benefit from, that's better for them than lots of other stuff on the shelf.
So where did you identify that then? Because if you go and get a chocky bar, it's full of sugar and really low in protein.
Yeah, so
you've gone in and gone, right, I'm going to give you 30 odd grams of protein, really low sugar, and that bar is less calories than a Mars bar.
Yeah, so we flipped it. So I was consumer number one. Yeah. So I was out and about traveling and going into petrol stations. And again, if you're super organised with your food, brilliant, but I'm not. So you're kind of eating what's in front of you. Yeah. And, how many times do you see people, and it's interesting watching people come out of petrol stations and, they've got a pasty and a Mars bar and a Red Bull and one a Monster, fine, but they're doing that every day. Yeah. And okay, you can go and buy a pretty average sandwich potentially. And I say average, but actually petrol stations now are so much better than they used to be. They've really upped the game because they've had to. And there's lots of reasons for that. But certainly you're buying what was there. And for somebody just wanted to eat something that was better for me, hit the nail on the head. Everything's low protein, high sugar. And I've trained for 30 years. So I want all my stuff to be high protein, low sugar. Yeah. And of course, sugar's cheap and protein's expensive. So not only did we disrupt confectionery, we put an alternative product. We gave consumers a choice. You can buy something high protein and low sugar, and you're going to pay like, £2.50, £3 for it. Or you can have something that's low protein and high sugar, and it's going to cost you 60p. But you are getting, consuming a lot of sugar. And traditionally, protein bars tasted diabolical, they were like dog chews. So we didn't invent protein bars. We invented good ones. Yeah. And it was a great industry for us to come in and disrupt. First of all, we made a product better than everyone else and continue to disrupt ourselves because we're the first people. If we can make something better, we do. Because if we don't, someone else will. So we'd rather disrupt ourselves. By competing with the confectionery brands, and not as in a, we're good, they're bad. We're like, well, you can have that, but you can also have this. You're going to pay more for it. And we just gave consumers an alternative. And I think the confectionery brands didn't think consumers would do that, wouldn't pay more for something potentially better for them. Because traditionally protein bars tasted bad. But because we made one that is now sort of, arguably indistinguishable from many chocolate bars. And certainly now we've partnered with Mondelez. The first thing we did was an Oreo variant. Yeah. So they made us sugar-free Oreo pieces. Yeah. So again, straight away, take all the sugar out of the Oreo, put it with our bar technology and our protein and whatever. What do you get? Oreo, grenade bar. Yeah, amazing. Perfect.
Win-win.
Launched that. Day of launch, selling 9 bars every second, I think it was. Yeah. And they started selling online for like 20 quid each a bar because you couldn't get them.
When you looked at this, like let's roll all the way back. So 2010, that's when you first come up with the idea with the Grenade name. Tell me the journey where you were just before that, moving into Grenade to say, I'm actually going to start a Grenade brand here. And obviously I'm taking it that you didn't go straight into bars. I would have thought you'd be working it all out and going, hold on a minute, let's go to bars. What was that journey look like?
Yeah, you're right. We'd got no interest. Well, I said we got no interest. It hadn't occurred to us to do bars. So I guess to explain where Grenade came from, I've got to say what I was doing for the 10 or 15 years prior to that, which was working in gyms. So I dropped out of school because I hated it. Education just wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy it at all. I thought the system was probably pretty fundamentally broken. still is. I've got a good memory, so education's a memory test. The teachers would say, X, Y, Z. I'd repeat it back to them, and they'd go, "Oh, well done, you're clever." And you think, "Well, you just told me that."
Yeah.
You what? So the first chance I got to drop out of school, I did, and went to work in my local gym. And my parents were furious. They were like, "You're wasting your life. You're better than this. You can go and do anything you wanted." But again, going back to the days of me being 15 and on work experience and being a skinny, Big Al wrestling fan, I just I've always done what I loved. So I love working in a gym. So I worked in gyms for 10 years. That led into me getting interested in supplements, which weren't really in the UK at the time.
What rough year are we talking here?
So we're now talking sort of late 90s.
Okay.
So, working in the gym from sort of 94 to kind of 99, I set up. And then from 1999 to 2003, I worked at Future Fitness in Coventry. But mid-1999, I was interested in supplements and basically set up a distribution business, which was distributing sort of mostly American-made sports nutrition just around gyms in the UK. And they were, say the gyms, they were like, they're not the health clubs that you're sort of thinking of now. These are the hardcore spit and sawdust, like, Temple Gym, Birmingham, Dorian's Gym, like electrical cables hanging down. I mean, it was like, again, when I was on work experience at 15, the Chapel Gym in Sturchley in Birmingham, the downstairs bit where all the leg equipment was, it used to flood. So if you wanted to train legs and it had rained, you were getting wet. And there's like, again, electrical cables and stuff hanging down. It's like, and it's like, fuck it, we're going to get big legs, So how no one died is amazing. But I remember squatting down there when I was like 16 years old in 2 feet of water. And you just did it. I mean, I want to do it now. So, I had the idea, and I was always a poor eater. I was kind of skinny. I didn't have a bad relationship with food, but if I wasn't hungry, I wouldn't eat. So I found it very difficult to eat the amount of food that I needed to consume. Became interested in supplements because they were new and they were like American and sexy and exciting. And I guess sort of as a shortcut, and it was kind of easier.
So you're talking supplements, so you're talking protein powders?
Yeah, protein powder. Yeah. So pretty much protein powders, nothing else. I mean, again, there'd have been protein bars, but really bad ones. And I remember having protein powders in the 90s. And gagging, literally gagging. I mean, I remember stories come back to me. I remember once, this is going to sound incredibly gross, but having protein powder mixed in with oats one night and just kind of force feeding myself. And I force feeding myself to the point that like I was sick back in the bowl, and I was thinking, oh, that was for nothing. Do I eat that? And I thought, no. But, tins of tuna, tins of rice pudding, just all the stuff you do back in the 90s. So I thought I was interested in supplements, and then set up this business, a business, just me, no customers, no product really, just the back of my car. I had a Nissan Primera. And I remember driving around gyms asking if they'd want supplements. And they were like, no, we don't believe in them. No one will buy them. No one will buy supplements. And I thought they would, because I was, customer number one for my distribution business. Would they not
do sale or return?
Well, that's actually what happened. So in the US, they'd call it on consignment. But basically, I think I probably invented sale or return in the UK, certainly for supplements. So I'd go around the gyms and I'd say, look, I'll buy the stuff. I'll put it in. If it doesn't sell, don't pay me. Yeah. And they were like, okay, sounds good to us. And I remember my first gym was a gym called Chic Physique in Birmingham. And I got them to take a box of flapjacks that I think I paid 10 quid for, and I charged them 15. And I remember coming back the next week, and I think he'd sold about 3 flapjacks, so I couldn't invoice him. And I went back again the next week, and he'd sold 3 or 4 more flapjacks, and I didn't invoice him. And I think the third week I went back, and he'd sold over half the box, and I said, like, I can't take these back. I need to invoice. He went, fine. I invoiced him 15 quid. So I'm like, I've made a £5. But I hadn't, because I'd driven there 3 times. And there was a lot of that. But as that business grew, and having worked in gyms, I became very good with people, very good at reading people, good with names, very good memory. And I learned really early on, personality gets you a long way. I learned that at school. And, the amount of people now, even if you've got no money and you've got no skills and you've got no ideas, and everyone's always got the personality. And it's free. So I've always been good at getting people to probably do stuff they probably shouldn't necessarily do, but they've kind of wanted to back me or help me out. And even to this day, that still seems to be the case, which is, remarkable, I guess. But yeah, going around these gyms and out of the back of my car, and, one or two products probably turned into 10. And then, my boot was always full, and then that turned into a van, and that turned into a couple of vans, and that turned into a warehouse. And I just set up this kind of one-man band sports nutrition business that was supplying all the gyms around Coventry, Birmingham, Leicester in the the early noughties, and really enjoying it, working incredibly hard, 7 days a week, didn't have a day off for years. Got my work ethic from my family, especially on my dad's side. They were all heavy goods vehicle mechanics, hard manual labour, like after the Second World War. Literally, they all died at work, literally. My granddad, he went blind and went to work. He was 82. My uncle, my dad's brother, he had a stroke at 74, didn't know what to do, so he went to work, turned up. My dad's like, geez, what's happened with you? He went, his face is down one side. He went, I think I've had a stroke. I mean, unbelievably sad, really.
Yeah.
He never got married, never had kids, never left home. Just all they did was work. So got the work ethic from them. So, got to put some graft into that business. And then come sort of 2007, 2008, it was a really nice, what I'd call lifestyle business. And then to answer the question, where did Grenade come from? That was primarily from, I was a middleman, I was a distributor, I never owned the brand, and I was never really talking to the consumers. I was kind of importing product or buying from an importer. I was selling it to a gym, and I was always in the middle, and I was always getting squeezed. I was always getting squeezed from the cost side. I was always getting squeezed from the retail side, and I could just potentially see that that business potentially shrinking, and I kind of fell out of love with it. And and again, the fact of doing this stuff on sale or return got to the stage where I'd kind of proven the concept, and this didn't have to be a sale or return business anymore, and it was a hard model to move away from. And supplements getting a lot more competitive, and I started to lose faith in what I was selling, because genuinely, as someone who likes selling stuff, and again, you'd be a good example of this. You want to make money, but you want to make money with a conscience. Yep. The reason my business did so well was I would never put anything into a gym that I wouldn't use myself. Yep. And I cherry picked the best of every brand. So as one brand would have the best protein powder, another brand might have the best pre-workout, another brand might have the best multivitamin.
Can you remember any of these brand names?
Oh, I can remember all of them.
Go on.
So ProLab, Champion Nutrition, Meta-X, EAS, so Myoplex, Solgar, Maximuscle in the early days, BSN, and loads of other obscure American brands. So one stage in my warehouse, I've got probably 60, 70 different brands in there, but a lot of these brands, I've got 200 products, and I've just got the top seller that everyone wants. I don't want the rest of the brand. So that taught me that you don't need a big range, you just need one product that sells. So you can see now.
What was your hero product back then?
Oh, the hero product. I used to do a lot of a brand called Reflex, based in Hove, so they're protein powders. I used to do a lot of drinks, carb drinks and stuff from a brand called Nature's Best, Perfect Nutrition. I would do fat burners was a big thing. I mean, like Stackers, the original fat burners and stuff, again, sort of the late 90s. I mean, it was the Wild West. It really was the Wild West.
No one knew, did they?
No one knew.
Yeah.
You weren't really going to find any of this stuff in supermarkets. It was too specialised. There was Holland and Barratt and GNC in the UK. GNC was getting quite big, so they had probably about 60 stores at their peak. It was starting to become a specialised section within Tesco called the Nutricentre. They had about 25 stores, but there was a really tiny footprint of specialty retail, and then the spit and sawdust gyms, and you couldn't get this stuff anywhere else. And actually, no one really knew about it unless you were really serious about your training. You didn't really know about these supplements. And I realised back then, I thought, actually, lots of people could get benefit from this. Most people would get benefit from these weight loss products or those protein powders. So even 30 years ago, I could see that this could and should become mainstream, but it was all very bodybuilding orientated. And the point I made about I started to lose a bit of faith in what I was selling, you were starting to see a lot of really well marketed American stuff that was rubbish. I don't want to mention any brands, but you'd get you get products that, were 80 quid. And I know they were making them for £2 and less. And they had this model where they'd kind of burn a consumer once, and then they'd use that money and they'd go and find another one.
Yeah, okay.
And not saying like do them any harm.
What do you mean by burn a consumer?
Just overcharging them for stuff
Okay.
that was just dirt
So
cheap.
they wouldn't come back again?
No, because of the prices. And, you'd got American companies taking out, like, magazines then. This is pre-social media, remember? So taking out adverts in magazines. So, they're taking out 80 pages of magazine adverts, in your favourite training magazine. Back then, Flex magazine, Muscle and Fitness, Health and Fitness, that became Men's Fitness, Men's Health, all started to become more mainstream. And a lot of the kind of, the lads mags like, Maxim and Nuts and Loaded, again, late 90s, transitioned into Men's Health and Men's Fitness. I'm working in gyms at the time, and I can see it. I can see people, younger lads coming in, getting more into the training. Friday night, coming to train before they went out. And, rather than going out at 6 o'clock of an evening on a Friday night, they'd come in and train and go out at 8 o'clock of an evening. And I can just see this transition. And then, and again, I'm working in a gym and I'm working multiple jobs, because at one stage I've got 3 jobs here. I've got a distribution business, I'm working in a gym, and I'm doing personal training, and I'm working the door. So if I'm awake, I'm working, and even, and then some. I'd finish in the gym at 5, train, be on the door for 7, work till 2 in the morning, get home at 3, be up at 7, 8, back in the gym for 10, working till 5. I mean, it's literally
Proper crafter.
It's relentless for years.
What
for years
clubs are you working on the doors?
Oh, in Birmingham, the dance scene in the 90s. So. Tintin, Subway City, Wobble, Bonds.
Wobble, do you remember that?
Wobble, Bond
on
Street,
the dance floor, it just bounced, didn't
Bakers, Studi Bakers. Just great times. And again, and all these businesses have always been intrinsically quite linked through people you meet through gyms. You kind of, if you work in a gym, it's quite stereotypical, isn't it? You work in a gym, you do PT, and you end up on the door. It's just but I'm not a typical person you think I kind of be on the door. But did that, literally to save up for my first house. But going back to that supplement business of me getting quite dejected with selling, I wouldn't sell well marketed products, and they were rubbish, because my sale and return business couldn't sustain that, because, as you said, the people aren't going to come back. And then the flip side of that is there's a load of good supplements coming out, terribly marketed. So you're torn, because the stuff that's really good looks terrible and doesn't sell, but works. And the stuff that's all jazzy and all singing, all dancing, American stuff that's in all the magazines and whatever looks amazing, but is shite and doesn't work. So I thought, why can't you do both? Why can't you have a really well-marketed product that does what it says on the tin? The old Ron Seal saying, because as a consumer, and again, the brands that are kind of charging consumers lots of money for supplements, taking that margin, going and finding another consumer, I thought it's got to be easier to keep existing customers happy than just keep looking for new ones. And I was convinced these kind of American brands would run out of consumers eventually. And they did. And if you think, actually, all the brands I've just mentioned, like, EAS in its peak was like a $350 million brand. Abbott Pharmaceuticals bought them. GlaxoSmithKline bought Maximuscle.
Did they?
Bought GSK, paid 160 million for GSK. That brand now is probably worth 7 million, 8 million. And there's me with my supplements in the back of my car, and I've created a business that's 50% bigger than all of them. But it's taken me longer because I've done it the right way. And sports nutrition, again, pretty much like, I guess, the current social media generation that we're in with instant gratification, it's people look for quick wins, and Grenade's been a 30-year overnight success. I'd done 20 years in the fitness industry before I started Grenade, so I kind of knew what to do and what not to do. And then all these learnings of things over the years, talking to consumers, all start to manifest themselves into Grenade and that first product, and what was intended to be our only ever product, which was that fat burner, the iconic Grenade bottle.
Was that your first product that you took on?
We never
the
thought
fat burner.
Yeah, we never thought we'd do another product.
What made you identify in the market there was an opportunity to bring a fat burner in compared to other competitors?
they were super popular. It was the vast majority of people you'd speak to in gyms. And I remember I'm spending 60, 70, 80 hours a week in gyms, all want to lose weight. 80% want to lose weight. And it was a product that I knew a lot about and I felt we could make impactful. Because the problem with things like protein powders and drinks and stuff like that is people can't tell if they work.
Yeah.
So other than taste, you've really got no indication whatsoever it works. So, you took an effective weight loss product, which is generally going to be caffeinated. And, you're going to want to, you're going to feel it. You're going to want to do something. So it was more to do with the fact, you get that feeling again, like a pre-workout, take it before you trained. If you don't want to train and took a pre-workout, you were going to train, you were going to do something. Yeah. So, and certainly Grenade came from the fact that, again, a brand that people would remember, because also the other thing we haven't discussed is most of these companies have got scientific sounding supplements. And again, I'll say if you like, Zenadrine, Hydroxycut, Zedracut, what? How do you spell Zedracut?
Yeah.
So you'd say to people, oh, you should try Zedracut. What? They just wouldn't remember. Yeah. And these things always ended up being as well, for the reason I've said, life supplements could be expensive. There were lots of fat burners out there. There were like 12 capsules a day. And you'd say, try saying to someone, yeah, take 12 of these a day. Firstly, they wouldn't remember. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I forget to take them. Yeah. Or I can't take capsules. I hate taking capsules. So, can't I just take 1 or 2 or 4 or whatever? And again, if you took a product that was 100 capsules and it was 30 quid, it was lasting you 8 days.
Yeah.
So I thought, actually, I want to provide sort of value for money here. So when we actually developed the Detonator, our fat burner product, it was 45 quid, but it lasted a month. Okay. And everything else was cheaper, but lasted a week. Yeah. So we were the most expensive, but we were the cheapest. That's actually a really difficult message to convey to a consumer.
But it was more expensive, but it lasted longer.
Exactly, yeah. Because you're getting a month's worth for 45 quid, not a week's worth for 30 quid. But you were getting consumers going, oh, well, it's really expensive. And go, but it lasts longer. So these are all things that are really difficult to convey for consumer brands. It takes time.
Did fat burners for you work personally?
Well, I never really needed them because I was a really skinny kid, to be perfectly honest. But I like the idea of, taking a capsule or something pre-workout, and going from, first thing in the morning and going from, I'm a bit sleepy today, I don't really feel like doing anything. Because I never used to drink tea or coffee. I've only drank coffee the last probably 10 years. So having an effective weight loss product or some kind of thermogenic, having it, and it was like a slap in the face first thing in the morning. And again, because I was at school, I was always kind of quite scientific and stuff, and I've always been interested in product and formulas and development, and I'd got the ideas of sort of making my own weight loss product over the years, looking and seeing what sold, what worked, what didn't work, different ingredients. Oh, that works, but it's expensive. That goes well with that. It was all kind of trial and error.
You're basically
and for
putting the whole
years, I
jigsaw
was experimenting.
Together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So experimenting with both the formula of the product itself, what the product would look like, how protectable it would be, and how memorable it would be. Because the thing about Grenade, it's all very deliberate. I'm sad to say, if you were to say, like, even to probably a 10-year-old child in most places in the world, and pointed a picture of a grenade, they'll know what it is. Yeah. That image and a grenade is the same in every country around the world. Yeah. It's the same thing. So it even got to the stage where, you could see that logo, that distinctive Grenade logo that we've got, and you see it from 100 feet away. You can just see the word Grenade. You don't even need to see like the word.
So what year did that come about then, the actual Grenade bit? Because you've gone into, you're talking 2010 here.
This is 2010.
You didn't go straight into Grenade, did you?
No, but started the formulation and the learning and the trademarking and the process probably back as early as 2006. Because then this is the formulation of an idea. But I've already got my supplement business at this point, so I don't need a job, it's not a priority. And then comes to the 2008, really fell in love with that supplement business, sold it to my best mate. He really wanted to do it.
How much did you sell it to him for?
Oh, that's at the time we sold it for 400 grand, which was basically just the stock that we had.
So you were at a point saying, just take the stock away from me, I'm out, I need to do something different.
And do you know what I did? I worked for him for a year for free because the customers that we built and the gyms all become good friends. I wanted the business to succeed. I wanted him to succeed. This was 2008. We're in the middle of a financial crisis. Yeah. He left his job to run this business. I wanted it to continue. And I'm kind of thinking like, I'm out at this point. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I've got the Grenade idea. but we'll somehow kind of make it work. Had a few weeks off, and then this was very much kind of a hobby that turned into an obsession. Launched then in February 2010, literally down to 27 quid in the bank. And I've got all these contacts in sort of sports nutrition because I've been buying off them for years. And everything that I ever done with the distribution business, we flipped. So all of our suppliers became our customers. So I went to see all my old suppliers and just went, I've got something to sell you.
Yeah.
And because I bought from them for 10 years and been a good customer, and everything I'd said I'd done, I'd
your word. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd always, under-promised and yet over-delivered. I'd never owed a penny in my life. I'd always pay people on time, early. And again, like I said, people liked me and they gave us a shot. Everyone thought we were bonkers. Because it was like, you've got a product here that looks like a hand grenade, No one's going to put this on a
So the
on a
actual
shelf.
first product was a hand grenade?
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll pop it on the screen now. But and we still sell it today. And it's still like the number one selling weight loss product in the UK. It's bonkers, like 10, 12 years, 13 years running.
So what was the journey after there then? Because that couldn't have earned you a living. You said you'd gone in there with 27 quid. How have you built something up? Did you borrow money from the bank? Have you borrowed money from anyone? Along the way?
No, just literally always used our own money. Someone said to me once years ago, I was only thinking about this yesterday, I'll never forget it. He said, always borrow money. He said, always use someone else's money, never use your own. He said, so if you lose it, doesn't matter. I thought, a horrible thing to say. Yeah. I thought, so, no, I've always needed a fire under me. I'm inherently quite lazy, actually. So for someone who's worked so hard, I'm really lazy. So if I can do nothing, I'll do nothing. And I need a fire under me. And this was something that, looking back, I knew that was a good idea. I knew it was a good name. It wasn't a matter of, will this work? It's like, when this works. I actually thought it would probably get bigger quicker, if I'm totally honest. I don't want to sound arrogant, but I was shocked at how difficult this was, because I knew we'd got a good product that was well branded and was protected. So we hadn't got any money or anything, but we'd got suppliers that extended us credit. People knew us. I mean, that the bottle, for instance, the bottle's key, because the bottle didn't exist, that grenade bottle. We made that.
Where were you bringing them in from? What country?
UK.
You were making them in the UK?
All made in
Were
the
you?
UK.
Okay.
Just fundamentally believe everything starts here. If we can make it here, we do.
Yeah.
It's really sad that a lot of the technology
is in foreign countries.
isn't in the
I hear you.
UK to do it, because I know this frustrates through dark, but it's if we can make it here, we do. I've got to say this and give a shout out to them, because this is terrible. When we went to UK trade and investment the clues in the name with UK. For this £500 passport to export loan, we borrowed that money. You had to spend the money to get it, so it was wasn't really a loan per se, because they basically refunded what you'd already bought. But we used that to do a show in Germany. And when we said what we wanted to do, and we met UKTI at the house and said, we want to do this, we want to make everything in the UK, and they just said, just go and make it in India and China, it's cheaper. First thing they said, never forget it, and just think, no, okay, so apart from the 500 quid, they're no help, because that's not what we want to do. And ultimately, I remember saying to my dad, I need to make like a bottle that looks like a grenade. And I've looked all over the internet, I can't find one. And it's got to hold capsules, it's got to be food grade, and it's got to have a tamper-proof lid. And because this all sounds easy, but when you start thinking about it, it's got to be tamper-evident, because what happens if someone's got one in a gym bag and a kid gets it and takes 100, of our products that have got caffeine in. And you think, well, are you allowed to do that? Because it's a trading standards issue, because it looks like a weapon and it sounds straight. And again, it's a food. It's like, oh God, this is a whole minefield.
Have you ever been caught out walking around with a grenade or in your bag, where the old Bill have gone, what's that in your bag? And you've gone, this is a grenade.
Ask me that again in a minute. Come back to that, because I'll tell you some. I'll tell you, they're quite funny now, but I'll tell you some horror stories about that, about various things. But remind me of that, because I'll tell you where the bottle came from. So. And I remember my dad said, well, you'd need to get a tool to make a bottle. You need a tool maker. Thinking, where'd you get a tool maker from? And he went, oh, I know someone that used to be a tool maker. Because my dad, this old school, dad's 82 now. Rang up my dad's old mate, who remembers me going to work with my dad, who was, the mechanic, as I said, go and help him out on Saturday morning when I was 11, which I absolutely hated. And I remember chatting to him, and he remembered me. And again, he liked me, and he was just about to close the doors of his tool making business. Everything had gone to India and China. He hadn't taken a salary in years, and the business was finished. And I said, well, look, I've got this idea to can you make me a bottle that looks like a hand grenade? He said, well, we'd have to go and get it designed. So you need someone who can design a tool, to make a bottle. And I was like, God, there's a lot of steps involved in this. And I haven't really got any money. So these people kind of all helped, because in that particular case, he's kind of got, by his own admission, he got nothing else to do. So all this, took months and years and was scraped together and hadn't got a clue what I was doing. And I think, the reality is most entrepreneurs don't have a clue what they're doing. They learn as they go along.
Naivety is a gift in business.
Do you know what? It is. And isn't it amazing now, the innocence of kind of not realising how momentous the journey is in front of you? Because I think if someone had shown us years ago, this is how hard it's going to be, hand on heart, I'd like to think I'd have done it, but I don't know if I would have done, to be fair. Unbelievably hard. But yeah, to answer your question about the, have you ever had any incidents with grenade bottles? Oh, all the time. I mean, again, we started off, again, back to my, my love and interest with the military. Our first customers were all military personnel. Nobody was making product for the military. They were making product for football players and rugby players and other athletes and stuff, but no one was doing anything specifically for the military. So we did. And started off kind of in like UKSF, and it moved away from there. But and that's where all my friends in the military have basically come from. But these guys then being deployed, 2010, 2011, 2012. So many of these guys have got like grenade bottles in their baggage. They start putting up signs at airports, and these are like military airports like Bryce Norton and whatever. And there's a sign there. A friend of mine took me a picture, and it just said, he said, you'll like this. And it just said, if anyone's got grenade product in their bag, can they make sure it's not in the hand luggage, it's in the hold luggage and whatever, because they get scanned through and they look like grenades and everyone panics and stuff. And again, going through Channel Islands airports, there's all the stuff, lined up on the customs desk that you're not supposed to have, and screwdrivers and knives and all this stuff. And there's a grenade bottle there, and we see that. And then, we shut down a 5-star hotel in Nairobi because somebody left one on the desk, on the hotel bed, and the maid found it and thought it was an IED. We shut down a major road in India. I shut down the New York metro system. Somebody left a grenade bottle in a GNC, in the flower bed outside a GNC store.
You're joking, mate.
So the metro system got shut down. And weirdly, all this stuff, because I laugh now, it wasn't funny at the time.
Great marketing, though.
Well, you'd think, but weirdly, I always thought, I think if that had happened now, I don't know if it'd be a good thing or a bad thing, but I mean, it would be out there.
Yeah.
Again, kind of pre-social media, Facebook was around, Instagram wasn't. It never really went anywhere. It'd always come back to us. Like, we'd always have the press and contact us. But so, is this you? And we're like, yeah, it's us. And I think, again, we're back to that. People have always been, had this sort of fondness, I think, of grenade. And people, like entrepreneurs. And you can get away with a lot if you're, I think, disruptive, but yet not disrespectful. Yeah. And
a happy disruptor, we call
it. Basically, I think, just a disruptor. And I think, the feedback, and as I said right at the start, brands are extensions of their founders. So good or bad, every aspect of my personality is in that brand somewhere. The attention to detail, the perfection elements, the, serious stuff, but not taking itself too seriously, wanting to be the best, competitive, but wanting to help people, wanting to make a product that people really genuinely get benefit from. Because ultimately, people say to me all the time, why should I buy your supplements? And I'll say, well, you shouldn't. You should be eating a really balanced diet, sort of, and eating probably 3, 4, 5, 6 clean meals a day. Do you do that? No. Well, you should be taking supplements then. So you can't have it both ways. So all the aspects find their way into that brand.
How did that journey go then from your original products? How many products did you do on that journey before you hit jackpot?
Oh, so I'll tell you what now, I'm not sure if we've hit the jackpot yet, because weirdly, I don't. I know.
It sounds like to me you've hit the jackpot, mate.
Do you know what?
Last time you come down, you flew your own private jet down.
I did
down
fly
to
a plane
Bournemouth.
down, yeah. We should probably get onto that. I was in a plane crash. So after being in a plane crash, I thought it'd be a good idea to learn how to fly one. So remind me of that. We'll get onto the plane crash story, because again, that's kind of late 90s
hold
as
it
well.
there, mate. Let's go straight into that plane crash. Okay. We're there now.
What was the previous question
I don't
as well?
know, but I'm enjoying this. No, let's go. I'll tell you what. Let's come back.
This is the problem with entrepreneurs, isn't it? Because I'm like chasing 100 rabbits. I'm like a highly caffeinated
I want to
squirrel.
know how many products You said you haven't broke the back of it, you haven't smashed or hit the jackpot. You've hit the jackpot. You've done extremely well for yourself. You're just being humble, which is very nice to hear. Tell me how many products you had before the one hero product that changed everything for you. And what was that hero product?
Well, I guess probably one. So when going back to the sports nutrition days of distributing and selling other people's products, I realised back then you don't need loads of stuff. You just need one product that sells and sells and sells and sells. And I always thought Red Bull. Now, I've never drunk Red Bull, don't like it, love the brand. So, you know, how many products have they got? So how many do you need? Coca-Cola, Pepsi. So, you know, all these brands just do extremely well off one well-known product. So, you know, why have dozens or hundreds? Because again, selfishly, from a warehousing perspective, it's a pain in the ass to store all this stuff. So you can just have one thing. Brilliant. So we decided that Grenade would be the Red Bull of sports nutrition, and it was all going to be weight loss, and we could protect it, and it could go in that Grenade bottle, and it appealed to the most people. And, you know, rather than being 12 capsules a day, it was 4, and it was better value for money, and it worked. And ultimately, look, there's no such thing as a magic pill. But we knew every aspect of dieting that people struggle with, you know, that product helped with appetite suppression, helped with energy, you know, helped you drink more water. So we thought, you know, one product, and launched in 2010. Again, no money, didn't really know how to launch it, pretty clueless at this point, got product. I've got a couple of distributors selling it for me. It's not really selling. The Body Power show is coming up at the NEC in the May. It's the February at this point. We're out of cash. We're down to 27 quid. We think we've lost the house. And it comes down to this show. And I remember thinking, how can we steal this show? And having been to many fitness shows over the years, I'm sure you have as well. And obviously you run events, you know, you've seen it all. Formula One cars in there. Everyone's got, you know, amazing looking fitness models, male and female, models everywhere, giving out T-shirts, you know, Muscle Tech in the US. They'd turn up at a show and they'd give away 50,000 T-shirts. How do you compete with that? So I thought, well, okay, rather than give away stuff, we'll sell it. So we won't give away T-shirts, we'll sell T-shirts. So we're the only people for a start who are at the show selling T-shirts because all the others are free. But something free inherently has no value. So we think, actually, if anyone wants that, they're going to buy it, you know, and we're buying these T-shirts for 6 quid. So right, we'll sell them for a tenner. But ultimately we thought, what can we take into this show that everyone's going to remember, they haven't seen before? And I like tank. I like tanks. I like military stuff.
The big orange tank.
Yeah, it wasn't orange then. It was green.
It not, was it?
It was a green. So we ring up our mate Nick from Tanks a lot, because then you see there's probably about 4 or 5 people in the world that own tanks, and because I like military stuff, I know all of them. So we ring up Nick from Tanks a lot. Hi Nick, any chance we can borrow a tank? Yeah, what for? I'll take it in the NEC. Can we do that? Yeah, it won't be a problem. How many do you want? Just the one. So he lets us have the tank. Good as gold. Probably best thing he ever did for us, because we've been close friends with him ever since. We get it bought to and from the NEC, I think, for like 500 quid, like with a 4-way journey. How we blagged it for 500 quid, I don't know. Got the space in the stand in the NEC we got for nothing, because we're like, so we're going to bring a tank in. That's going to be our boost. We don't need anything else. And yeah, we drive in a 17-ton Abbott self-propelled gun into the NEC. This thing is billowing like smoke, like you wouldn't believe. Sets all the fire alarms off. All the smoke detectors go off. Everyone comes running over. It gets right to the head of the NEC at the time, a guy called Paul Tandy, who again, sort of, he's pissed off, but then he meets us and sort of sees the funny side. Yeah. So I think this has been the thing with Grenade. We've got away with a lot. And that became our thing, was taking tanks into shows, and we just stole the show, because everyone's like, you know, forget that racing car over there, or forget those, like, you know, those kind of those fitness models or whatever. These guys have taken a frigging tank in. Have you seen this? And there's some American businesses and American distributors at this show, and they're like, they've never, you know, in 20 years in the industry, they've never seen anyone do this before, because it's so ridiculously bonkers and unconventional and out there. But, you know, it's perfect for us because we're Grenade. What
was your brand then? Brand Grenade when we went into the show. But what were you actually selling? What products did you actually
just
have at
that thermo detonator, just that fat burner. So we've got one product.
So what year did you move on to the protein chocolate bars?
Oh, so 2015.
2015.
Yeah. So
what's a quick overview of 2010 to 2015.
So the quick overview is basically we only ever want one product. 2010 to 2012, we make it the best-selling weight loss product in the country with one product, and we've got a decent lifestyle brand, but it's nowhere near as big as we want it to be. Yeah. And we do a pre-workout, and we do some of the specialised sports nutrition products, but the market is changing and evolving. And I realised then in 2013 that everywhere that we can be as Grenade with fat burners, we're already there. We're number one on Amazon. We're in Tesco Nutricentre. We're in Tesco Main Estate. We're in all the Holland and Barratts. We're in all the GNCs. We've got nowhere else to go because it's specialised, and these are products that are 50 quid. And I think back to the Red Bull. Why is Red Bull everywhere? Because it's 2 quid and it's in your bloody local petrol station. But how do you go from your 50 quid fat burner to something that's 2 quid sat on the shelf? And we're like, protein bars. Yeah. So I used to sell protein bars as a distributor. Again, all these, the sale or return. I know what sells, I know what doesn't. These are all the dog chews, your dual workout eating one. So we think, okay, if we could put that Grenade name, which everyone loves and people know now in the UK and like, but if you don't want a fat burner or you haven't got 50 quid, you're not buying us. You might like us, but which is great. That's my Red Bull analogy. I like it. I don't buy it, but I like the brand. So we think we've got to condense everything we know into something we can put everywhere, and it's got to be affordable. And this is where the protein bar thing comes from. So we go to these suppliers that make these protein bars again, who I know, and say, right, we want to do a protein bar, but it can't taste like all of the protein bars. It's got to taste like a chocolate bar. It can't be done. We're like, try. Right, who's tried? No one's tried because it can't be done. Right, off we go. 2 years and 42 failed protein bars later, so it's now April 2015. We launch our first protein bar, and as of I remember I sat all the guys down at work, all of us, probably 10 of us at Grenade. I said, right, from now on, we're not a sports nutrition brand, we're a food brand, we're a small food brand.
Okay, so that's when you flipped it.
We're going to break out of sports nutrition, and we're going to go mass market. We're going to get this.
Why?
Anyway,
what went through your head to go, this is what we need to do? Who's your
Scale,
partner?
really.
Did you have a business partner?
So at the time now, so my ex-wife, so Jules, my business partner. So I say ex-wife, we got divorced 5 years ago now. But so Jules and I, founded the brand back in 2010. She exited the business back in late 2018. Yeah. But husband and wife team, no kids, just, relentless marketeers. And I think it was the fact I knew Grenade could be and should be more. And it was our way of becoming mass market and breaking out. Yeah. I said, we had 42 failed variants of protein bars, but we didn't. We learned 42 ways not to make the protein bar that we wanted. And we got, and to be fair, the suppliers were getting a bit pissed off with us at this point. And we had private equity investment back in early 2013. I told them a protein bar idea. They hated it. They told me not to do it. Maybe I did it anyway.
How much did they chuck in?
They valued the business back in 2013 at 35 million.
They valued it at 2013,
yeah.
Did they?
Tell a lie, it was February 2014 because we were 4 years in at that point.
And what sort of turnover were you doing in those 4 years?
We'd have been doing, by 2014, probably 8 million turnover, maybe sort of 3 million EBITDA, just of one product.
3 million EBITDA?
Oh, yeah.
And they come in at 35 or 30 million? Okay.
So, and again, backing the vision of just, because I think, the mistake that we made, the big mistake, we worked too hard at it. After 4 years, we'd never taken a day off. We'd never taken a salary. On paper, we'd made all this money, but we'd never thought about it because it was never about making money. It was about doing what we set out to do, being the Red Bull of sports nutrition, making, a brand with a purpose, making a product that people would get benefit from. And as I said, just the hobby that turned into an obsession. And Growth Point came into early 2014, valued the business. We took cash off the table, and it was basically to hit the reset button and go again. And we thought at the time, because what we wanted to do had never been done before, these guys would really be able to help us. And the reality was they were super nice people and great partners, but they were no help whatsoever.
Right, okay.
We never really needed the money at that point.
If they weren't if they weren't very good at helping, why did you take them on? Was it for the money, to take money off the table, to ease the pressure?
I think it was to de-risk at that point. Remember, this stuff is all inherently super risky.
Yeah.
And the amount of, businesses do well. And I say, look, I don't consider Grenade successful because I don't think we've probably developed the idea or the product yet that's going to make us, truly global. And I think, all my friends, a lot of my friends are in the military and stuff and SF, and humility is part of the core. So I never, ever want to be one of those people who thinks they've made it and got there, because to be perfectly honest, I don't know where there is.
Well, my mum always said never stop at the finishing line.
Well, that's
keep
it.
Going.
Yeah,
otherwise
that's it.
someone will come and take it off you.
And this is the danger. Look, we could do a whole of a podcast on the trappings of what success looks like, and it's great climbing the mountain, but you've got to come back down again. That can be a part 3.
That'd be a
Obviously,
great
part
podcast to do. I was too bouncing off that. What percentage did they take of the business in 2014?
Just over half.
They took over half.
Yeah, just over half.
And how much did you take off the table? Roughly?
Around about 18 million, something like that at the time. So
happy days.
Yeah, and do you know what?
You know what? It's only 18 mil, mate, but it was okay.
So and do you know, we celebrated because this made the papers. This did. We had a curry and a cream egg
in a proper Brummy way.
Well, weirdly, again, we saying about the eventful lives element of this, I guess. We banked with HSBC, and we sold shares in Grenade, and when the transaction went through, it didn't go through because they thought we were arms dealers. So we're the only people who've sold shares in the business and then didn't get the money for it. So the paperwork went through, and the bank rang us, and so our solicitor rang us at the time, DLA, John Watkins, and he said, "I've got good news and bad news. The good news is the deal's done. The bad news is you've not been paid for it." So we're like, fucking fantastic. The bank held the money. It got released 2 or 3 days later, but they wanted to clarify we weren't arms dealers.
Just because of the name Grenade?
The name Grenade.
Wow.
They said, just to clarify, guys, if I was an arms dealer, I'd probably disguise it as something else. I'd probably say it was cotton wool or something. So we did that. But it was hit the reset button and go again. And we were so tired at that point.
When you hit the reset button and go again, like you just mentioned there, you've gone through with your wife, Jules. What role was Jules playing in this business, and what role were you playing? Because being in a business with husband and wife can be difficult at times.
It was the best and the worst thing, for sure. And, do I regret it? Of course not. Would I do things differently? Absolutely. The problem, again, I think was, with not having children. I never wanted children because Grenade's always been, my baby. But we found our swim lanes quite quickly. I was this, an unqualified gym instructor. I worked in gyms for 10 years, never got a single qualification, working for under minimum wage, like £2 an hour.
So you were the front man. You're going out there.
I was kind of the face,
marketing.
yeah. So I knew.
What was Jules?
So I was. I knew sports nutrition. I knew the industry.
Yep.
She was. She used to be a geography teacher actually. So I knew gyms and fitness and military. Military's my passion. She was never really particularly interested in the military, but she went along with it because she knew, I liked it. But she was pretty much. I did product and sales and the development and the face, and you went and did the shows and did the selling and. Did any interviews and stuff like that. She was really then kind of marketing and brand than anything else, office, emailing, admin. There's just, there's
so much to
50
do.
jobs and you've
course.
got to spin every plate. We were, luckily, everything I was terrible at, the list is long, she was really good at and vice versa. Yeah. So we never really wanted, we both did marketing.
That's the perfect partnership.
Yeah, it's
the perfect partnership.
It was great. The only downside of it being, that's all we did, for year after year.
So you'd get up in the morning, talk about it, go to bed, talk about it. That must get in the way.
Middle of the night.
It must get in the way of having a relationship.
Well, yeah, that's it. our relationship was just a business. And and that was it. And then to be fair, then really, unfortunately, when as the brand became, successful. The marriage became least successful. We just ended up really as business partners and not as husband and wife.
How long have you been together for by the age of by 2014?
14, 15 years.
Really?
Yeah. So, and we're still tremendous friends. We've still got 3 of the businesses together. Speak to her every week. Just wish her all the very best with everything. I'm still great friends. Fantastic thing to go through. And I think would we have split up with or without Grenade? Probably. If anything, it drove us apart, but it probably also kept us together. So, I don't regret that. But like I said, if any people ask me all the time, "Well, as husband and wife, what do you think?" You probably do have to have kind of these boundaries and not talking about things at certain times. And I guess if you've got kids, you've got other priorities. But I guess, again, probably for the third time on this podcast, it's the hobby that became an obsession. I don't know any other way of doing it. If I'm going to do something,
All in.
I'm in.
Yeah.
She's the same. We're in. We're at it. No one thought we could do it. Everyone thought we were bonkers. And it's just like, that's someone else to prove
How
wrong.
old were you and Jules in 2014, roughly?
So
10 years ago.
I'm mid-30s. I'd have been 36,
And was there ever
37.
a point, because at that age, 36, that I was a late one having kids and stuff, so was my wife. Was there ever a point you're like, do we want kids or don't we want kids?
I think we had one very brief discussion, but we genuinely thought we hadn't got time. And again, it's weird actually, because you'll probably know James Benamore. He's a great friend of mine that's, I think got 8 kids.
Yeah.
How he's done that and built a monstrous business. Fair play.
Billionaire.
Yeah, I know. Incredible.
Billionaire from Bournemouth.
And one of the nicest, he's probably the only billionaire from Bournemouth.
Yeah.
One of the nicest people I know.
Yeah.
And actually, I got
Massive respect for him. For what
he's awesome,
built.
James is.
Yeah.
We don't want to say too many nice things because he'll go to his head.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be fair, with the 200 million Mondelez acquisition back in 2021, he sent me the best message afterwards. And I had my 2 favourite messages were off him and off Richard Branson. Richard said, "Well done," the one that got away, because Richard looked at buying Grenade in 2016.
Did he?
Yeah. And he can't do FMCG, doesn't like it ever since Virgin Cola.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, James Benamore sent me a really thoughtful message.
What did he say?
To be honest, it's only something, again, you'd understand this because it's only something another founder would understand. But everyone wants you to be on cloud 9 and I wasn't, because it was like I just sold a limb, to be honest. You do feel like, I said, Grenade's the baby, so it did feel like I'd sold my child. So on one hand, you're over the moon. And he said, look, you've achieved something most people could never do. You've created something from nothing, this extreme, valuable business. But he said, if you don't feel okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
And he only said that because he knew, because it happened to him. He actually said, I think, he was quite down after sort of exiting his business.
So was that the first
roller coaster?
So 2014, when you got the investment, you took 18 mil off the table to grow the business.
Yeah,
when was the next to de-risk? When was the next time you got investment?
The next time was March 2017, and that was to Lion Capital, and that was 72 million.
So did Lion Capital buy into your business as well as the first private equity?
No, they bought the first ones out. The next ones came in, because again, then what we realised was with Grove Point, fantastic people, still keep in touch with them, super bright. Brad actually went on to be on the board of the Bank of England. Very, very clever people. But as you know, intelligence is not indicative. It's not a requirement for building an amazing brand. Yeah. I think actually it's probably a detriment. You're better off just not knowing and just working it out, because I think if you're too clever, you'll overthink it and do nothing. Yeah. So but Lion Capital, they knew consumer brands. They owned Weetabix, Kettle Chips, Jimmy Choo. They understood brands.
Were you looking at that time going, you know what, the next person who comes on board, the first private equity, they chucked money on the table, didn't really know what they were doing.
Yeah,
but respect to them, because they did back you.
They did back us.
And also respect to them as well, because they also doubled their money.
Oh yeah, and the rest.
The rest, if the Lion had come in and taken the
and I think, so what happened with that as well, this is all part of an interesting learning curve. So now, with the backers of Grove Point, again, were some of the richest people in the country. I won't say the names because you will never have heard of them anyway. But we were sort of under the impression these people would help, and they didn't. We never met them. We never heard anything from them. We never got a Christmas card. We never got a thank you for quadrupling their money. So that was...
What, the first private equity?
Yeah, so they're backers.
They're backers, okay.
So Grove Point were very, very pleased.
Yeah.
But I think we were really the only investment they ever made. They disbanded after that and never made another one.
They're probably all sitting on a beach. That's
I know,
why.
they're all they're all fucking retired.
Pina coladas every day. Thank you very much, Grenade.
And I think that's the difference, you see. Grenade was an investment to them. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, because, they came in, they made an investment, they took a chance on, Alan Jules and 4 cats, and did extremely well and tapped out. And, we've all stayed friends, and thanks very much. It was never about that for us. I said, I read a Jeff Bezos quote this week, actually, and it's always going to stick with me, because he said about the types of business and brands that he invests in. And there's missionaries and mercenaries. And straight away, I think, I'm a mercenary. I'm not. I'm a missionary. I'm a builder. I want to go and build something. I care about consumers. I don't really give a monkeys about the money. It's not about being rich. It's about making a difference and creating something from scratch.
But wealth comes after that.
It does, and
that's the
it
key.
wasn't in the
Yeah.
it wasn't in the top 5 things
Yeah.
that even entered our head.
Yeah.
Price isn't in the top 5 things when we develop a bar. I don't, it's just we make the best thing that we can. We make the best products we can all the time. The mercenary approach is there's value here. I want to make money. There's nothing wrong with that, but those businesses don't last.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at making a product, you can make a product the best it can be, or you can make it to a cost. The two different things. I'll make it the best it can be. A mercenary will make it to a cost. I'd never do that. So at some point, you're going to cut corners. Someone's going to make a better one. This stuff and you've said I could give you 1,000 brands where this happens, and it's almost every brand you could think of that has gone into kind of more public ownership tends to go this way. Yeah. The privately owned brands don't, because they tend to keep those core values. Yeah. So I learned then, I'm not a mercenary, I'm a missionary. But many investors are probably more mercenary in their approach. They're coming in, going out. Yeah. So Lion came in, and we knew we'd kind of outgrown.
So Lion there bought out the first Growth Point.
Yeah.
Growth Point owned 50% of Grenade. What percent did Lion own?
So Lion bought them out, but slightly few more shares. Probably the peak that they owned, probably about 61%, something like that. Because again, as we hit various
did you feel like you were losing
targets,
control at all when someone's obviously pumping a lot of money in that? You going, well, they've got control now over the final sale.
No, not really. Because to be fair, everyone we've ever worked with Lion, Growth Point, Mondelez, they've always kind of backed me. They've let me be
brilliant.
me. And I think at the moment, Mondelez is one of the best partners we've ever had. Exceptionally bright, huge value add, lovely people, great custodians of brand. And we've still got tons of freedom, just kind of within their framework. So I will, look, Grenade have been my baby, with 0 shares, but I've still got skin in the game. I've always had skin in the game, and me being me, like I said, they're all in or all out. If I've got 0.1% of those shares, I'm in. So if I'm going to do this, I'll do it to the best of my ability, because that's just the way I am.
What year was Lion? 2018?
2017, then to basically 2021.
Okay, so when that happened on that deal, did you and Jules say, let's call it a day? Did Jules say, I'll take my money and walk now?
It was kind of, I suppose that, this is probably more her story to tell, I guess. But what happened, I think, to be fair to her, she was kind of falling out of love a bit with the business because, she met the Terminator look lazy. There's no... there's no easy way to kind of say this, but, she was kind of, you're just the most, I've got a good work ethic. She's got a relentless work ethic. Up at 5 a.m.
Is she?
In the office
So
by 7.
Same as
Barratt.
She kept it, has she?
Oh, yeah, she has. She has. Relentless work ethic. But, military's my thing. The gym industry is my thing. I walked into a gym when I was 15 years old. So this is something that's in my blood. And I've always been an entrepreneur. When I was 11 years old and my dad was repairing Cadbury and Mr. Kipling lorries, I was nicking the cakes out the back and selling them at school. Yeah. So I've always been the person that kind of, I think, to be fair to Jules, she married more of an entrepreneur. Yeah. Than was probably more of she became an entrepreneur.
But every good entrepreneur has to have a wife or a girlfriend.
Oh,
they end up becoming great admins because they have to balance.
But you know what as well? It's more important because you cannot do it. You can't do this stuff on your own. I defy 100%. Anyone to do it on your own. You've got to have someone behind you that understands. Even one person is a start that understands. 100%. And we always both collectively always understood what we needed to do, what we were going to do, and what the priorities were.
So in that deal then with Lion, did she walk away from the business then?
No, look.
You said she left at 2018.
Basically, she resigned, but she kind of had no choice. There was really again, with all due respect to Lion Capital, kind of mercenary in every sense of the word. They're kind of known as being quite cold with investors. I get extremely well with them. They just kind of didn't like our marketing, to be perfectly honest. But we did. Yeah. And
did you fight with them over that?
I didn't per se. Sort of Jules did because she was head of marketing at the time. And the problem is, I was kind of CEO. And I suppose they'd say, very indispensable. The problem with being head of marketing is it's the most subjective thing about a business. Yeah. And they said at one point to us, we've got a world-class branding, we don't have world-class marketing. Their definition of world-class marketing was just spending millions of pounds a year on sponsored ads. Yeah. But we didn't really think that was it. I still don't. So, she sort of stuck to her guns, and we knew the way we were going. And, they wanted us to make, humongous brand changes that we weren't really comfortable with doing. And then, sort of she dug her heels in quite a bit. And she kind of got called down to London. And, we'd split up at that point. We were separated, but still working together, and no one knew.
Yeah.
And I said, do not tell them we've separated. Don't tell them. And she did. And I just think it kind of left her a bit vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they took a massive chance on. So, so she resigned with this disagreement. The annoying thing was that all the changes they wanted her to make that she didn't do, within the 12 months, they decided against them all anyway, and they'd all left.
Right, okay.
So the whole thing was kind of a bit pointless, to be perfectly honest. This is the problem again.
How did you feel as a CEO knowing that they're talking about your wife like that, and your wife is in charge of marketing, but you'd actually split up at that time? Did you kind of have to take sides?
Yeah, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
So actually what happened was I took a week out of the business, and I went and spent some time just with some friends of mine and whatever in the military, and just went off somewhere. And I said to my core team at work, sort of, she's gone. And this was like, for the first time ever, I've lost my co-pilot sort of thing. And, the gut reaction is, oh, well, I'm walking as well.
Your gut reaction?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they sort of took a chance that I probably wouldn't. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I spoke to my core team at work, and I said, this doesn't sit well with me. And it didn't sit well with a lot of the core team either, to be honest. But then you're employing lots of people. You've got a brand. You've got a job to do. And I said, I'm not sure if I'm staying. But look, I'm going to have a week off. Whatever I decide, when I come back, if I'm staying, we'll never talk about it again, and I'm in.
Who did you confide with here?
So my CFO at the time,
Okay.
so Tom and Phil, they're now actually my respective managing directors, Phil UK MD and Tom International MD. And again, unbelievable business partners and friends. And I said, and they understood, and it was difficult, but these guys have all got jobs and, kids and mortgages and
cars,
skin in the game. And, and again, and you remember, I'm still at this point, a 30% shareholder in this business.
Who had the other 9% then?
So, Jules and I would have had sort of roughly half each. There'd have been, some of the staff. There was a sort of a small investment business called EQT. It just kind of gets kind of divvied up really over the years. Line had got the majority, and this was kind of their prerogative. And ultimately, to be fair, years later, we kind of did get an apology, and it was a mistake. And I actually even got that in writing, to be fair. And I did sort of send it to Jules, and I went, look, I know it doesn't mean much, but
did she have to leave her shares on the table, or could she still keep her shares and resign?
Yeah, no. So she kept her shares in there, and then it was kind of all of a sudden. Then this is probably potentially one of the only times you start to feel like you're really starting to almost lose control of your business. But then again, a lot of the product ideas sit with me, the formulations, the relationships with investors, suppliers, retailers. Last week we had an issue just really with a major retailer in the UK. And I know the owner really well, so I went to see him, and it got resolved.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky. Founders work with founders.
Yeah.
But what I decided was, in my sort of, my week sabbatical of what do I do here, and I've never ever talked about this, by the way, but what I decided was, what's the best decision here where everyone wins, and making the best out of a bad situation? Because see, we'd already separated. If we hadn't have separated at that point, I would have walked, because I would have had no choice but to kind of back. But the fact that we were already separated, you think, well, why sort of chuck the baby out with the bathwater here? And you think, because if I kind of walk, does that help the business or hurt the business? Right, it's going to hurt the brand, which hurts her even more because she's a shareholder. Plus it hurts me. Plus it hurts the investors, hurts the whole team. It's bad for our suppliers. It's bad for the retailers. It's bad for all of our consumers. So why damage the brand? And I thought, look, so I decided to stay. And I remember saying to her, look, I've decided to stay. And I don't think she was probably particularly pleased with me. I don't think she spoke to me for a few weeks. But I understood why.
Why?
Just because
disrespect to her a little bit.
Maybe that, maybe disappointment, just in terms of
we built this together.
You didn't back me up. Which, look, maybe she wasn't wrong, but ultimately, the business is a £72 million business at this point. So now I've got, I said earlier, I need fire under me.
Yeah.
So now I've got more fire under me because I'm going to make her proud. I'm going to make, I'm going to double down. Now I've got twice as much work to do.
Yeah.
So, I stay, and then, we never discuss it again with the team, and then we sort of pick the pieces up and we move on. This happens with brands, some of the best known brands you can think of. You get this stuff happen and it's horrible. But ultimately you have to if you do what's right for your brand, who loses really? So I decided to kind of back the brand and, put the brand really before everyone,
First,
including me.
Yeah.
So
Lion had 61%. You had 30% with Jules, and there was 9% floating around.
Yeah.
When Jules left, did she keep that 15%, or was that 30% in your name?
Yeah, no. So she kept it. So we're still a shareholder. And then of course, I'm working even harder.
Can she be bought out?
No.
Okay.
Only on sort of the next event,
Yeah.
which ended up being the 2021 Mondelez £200 million deal. So
Mate, just hold that.
She did pretty well.
You said that too quickly. A £200 million deal.
Yeah. So
and were you still on your 30% then, or did that get brought down? The shares get brought down even more by 2021.
I mean, there's always fees to pay, tax. We had some debt in the business, so it gets eroded.
Yeah.
So the 200 million. I'm not knocking it,
Yeah.
but I look at all these deals and let's take James Bennamore's deal, $1.5 billion. I think there's he's not walking around with $1.5 billion in his pocket.
No, of course not.
So it's and again, I rolled on this deal. I didn't sell all my shares, so again I rolled certain shares. That was a prerequisite.
So it got
I've still got
diluted
shares in the
again when they
business.
bought it. Your shares got diluted again. What did it go down to from there?
Oh, my shareholding. I couldn't even tell you.
Roughly.
As a percentage, I mean, I rolled, I think, probably £5 million. I think on the last deal.
What in percentage?
So 5 million out of 200. Small change. Well, small change to a percentage, but it's fine for the percentages to get smaller as the numbers get bigger.
As long as the numbers rise, yeah.
And remember, we always said we'd much rather have a small share of something monstrous than a huge share of something small.
Yeah.
Do you want
all the pressure and
do you
headache
want
with that?
do you want sort of all of a tiny cake, or do you want a modest slice of the world's largest cake? So and I think as you start to get into business now, where it's easier to talk in fractions of billions, and again, it was never about the money.
But it helps.
Yeah, look, I've been wealthy and I've been poor, and I know what I prefer, but I also know that I've got friends who are billionaires, and I've got friends who work for the council and collect bins, and I'm just, I'm still that
nice.
The unqualified fitness instructor from Birmingham.
What was your experience from being an entrepreneur creating a brand? Look, we've both created some wonderful brands over the years, but I've never gone down the private equity route. How did you know?
Suggest you don't.
No, I don't want to. And I've been approached many times. I don't want to go down that route.
No, don't. Always pick the phone up to me.
What was your feeling of committing private equity? Then you're in private equity, and then you're getting sold again. Did it take away the culture of Grenade itself from how you remember?
It does dilute certain things. And look, the business and the brand that we have now is not the brand that we started, but there's loads of reasons for that. We never would have thought about, ultimately in its simplest form, when you said about explain the brand succinctly, I make chocolate bars.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I never would have thought about making chocolate bars years ago. I was only ever eating chocolate bars. So what we have now isn't what we created, but that's fine because businesses and brands evolve, and if they don't evolve, they don't continue to exist. I mean, again, I'm a mentor for Virgin Startup, and I always end up chatting and quoting Richard a lot because he's been in business for over 50 years and talks a lot of sense because he's got the scars. And he always says if he hadn't managed to evolve from having record stores. And de-risk from having that, he'd still have record stores, but the most important thing is he wouldn't have record stores, would he? So you always have to keep evolving and keep changing, and that for me as an entrepreneur is probably never thinks they're successful and never satisfied and wants to go on to the next thing, because that's just the way I am. A brand is perfect because a brand is never finished.
Yeah.
And the minute you do something and you've finished and you lose that sense of purpose, it's a really dangerous place to be for probably people like us, because we need stuff to do, and you know, everyone needs purpose with their day.
What was the different types of pressure you were under? You're under pressure building the brand, but then when you're owned by private equity, they're putting you under pressure for numbers, figures, sales. Did
That's
it
the bit
change
I
the fun in
dislike.
it?
Yeah, I mean, possibly not so much for me, because I've never worried about figures and numbers, because I've always had an amazing finance team and that's their job. So my job really is to protect the brand. And people actually now, they say, well, you know, what would Al do? And yeah, worryingly enough. So I'll always try and do what's right, you know, be disruptive, but not be disrespectful. Do something that makes sense, that ticks the boxes, you know, that is, I hate the word fun, but it's kind of got that light-hearted element with it. The best example I could think of is running a business and running a brand. You're a pirate. And the minute you go with private equity, you join the Royal Navy. Yeah. And I prefer being a pirate.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, it's just that simple. Yeah. But
good way of putting it there.
Yeah, well, actually, as well, you know, could we have built a brand, you know, without going through the PE route the same? Probably. Could have been bigger, could have been smaller. The thing is as well, look, you know, I've got friends who've done this and run brands in the US, and I've had valuations in the billions. And, you know, you've got these decisions to make. And every time we've had a decision to have investment and take some cash off the table, what do you do? Because, you know, it's a bit like the... You know, it's like deal or no deal, isn't it? You know, really like, well, you know, you could have, there's 2 million now, but you might have, you know, the 4 million or 10
years,
or whatever, but you might get nothing.
Yeah.
So every time I've had that decision, and the latest decision back in 2021 was with Mondelez for the 200 million, was Cadbury or Ferrero. Yeah. Because that's the choice, because we could have gone with either, because Ferrero approached us first. Giovanni Ferrero rang me twice looking to buy the brand.
He?
Oh yeah, to partner.
What offer did he put on the table?
So initially 170 million.
And did you tell Mondelez that there's one?
No, they found out. It was entirely secret. So yeah, they found out. So someone at Ferrero has got a big mouth.
Yeah.
But no, you know,
or you could have had a little cheeky whisper to someone, give them a heads up.
It definitely wasn't me.
It's a ton 70. If you give me 200, it's yours.
So it definitely wasn't me. But you know, we got on the radar of every chocolate brand.
You know,
Fatso, Mars. I mean,
but that's the exciting bit, right?
Oh, this was the thing. So Kellogg's were talking about us in their board meetings, and you know, and we heard about that, and you know, I think it was General Mills that called us ankle biters. Which just I think I'd probably take as a compliment now, but probably didn't at the time. I thought at the time, I was like, cheeky bastards.
What, just being nuisances, like
just
mosquitoes,
just been irritating.
Well, that's what you want. That's what you need.
We were in their business. We were in their, you know, we were going into their stores, and we were people, you know, weren't picking up their bars because they're picking up our bars, and we were annoying, and we were small and scrappy and and whatever. But you know, something very British about all this, isn't there? But the you know, and I remember when we first started to get the data back in sort of 2018, you know, so we launched these bars in 2015 and they take off like a rocket, and we are sold out for like 2.5 years.
Where are you making these bars?
In Europe, so you can't make them in the UK. We make some, we have made them in the UK, Netherlands mostly.
Is that right? And how did you know what ingredients to put in there to give them that sweet taste?
This is years of trial and error.
Were you putting sweeteners in there?
So we do use sweeteners, yes, we do use sweeteners.
And how do you explain the difference between a sweetener and sugar? Because it's a very grey area at the moment. Sugar's seen as the bad, which it is. Sweeteners are being talked about, and no one really knows what sweeteners doing to us.
So I think no one would argue that sugar's bad for you. Yeah. But then again, you know, without demonising sugar, you know, caffeine's not great for you either, is it? You know, there's lots and lots of things we consume.
Sugar's the enemy for everything.
Sugar is the enemy. Matt, I used to say sugar is the enemy, and sugar is responsible for dozens of illnesses that we know of. And look, we all eat too much sugar, and we all need to cut our sugar down. And you know, everything in moderation. And we all like chocolate. Yeah, but it's hidden. Sugar's hidden in everything. Yeah, that's the scary thing. You get back at. Look at back of packets. You think, oh, that's pure added sugar in ham, in whatever it is, sugar. Well, straight away, to go to your sweetener point, you know, there are certain sweeteners, like, you know, aspartame. We've never used aspartame. You know, so certain sweeteners are considered worse than others. So we've always tried to use sort of the better sweeteners that we can. I still think to date there's so little evidence that the sweeteners are bad for you. I'm not saying they aren't. They probably are, but are they worse for you than sugar? No, I don't think they can be.
How do we know that?
Well, that's the thing. But ultimately as well, we all know this stuff with hindsight, don't we? But the most important thing is remember my comment about the fact I'm not bothered if people don't buy my supplements. Go and eat a brilliant diet. Yeah. What I am bothered about is people living on crap and having chocolate and cakes and sweets and crisps and processed food and packaged food every day. And it's one reason why we're also bloody unhealthy. So would I be over the moon if people all lived on, fish and chicken and salad and whatever? Brilliant. I'll go and do something else. The reality is they don't. People like all this quick fix, convenient, like snacking crap, which again, as treats and stuff every week or, is fine. But all of a sudden, this has just become the norm over the last 40, 50 years. So my mission was never really to get people to kind of buy our bars. It was stopping them putting something else in the mouth that was worse for them. So we've never gone out and said, look, our stuff's really healthy. It's healthier than what people probably are
Good
doing.
way of putting it.
So that's what we said. We disrupted the confectionery industry right at the start because the confectionery industry hadn't been disrupted since probably the 1980s. Yeah. I mean, like the new kid on the block was Whisper, which I think was 1985. So it was like, we come along and all of a sudden, and this is my point about when we start getting the data in 2018, we start, we're number one in protein bars. Who cares? Protein bars aren't that big, so it's easy. You big fish, small pond. But we start creeping up the rankings, and this is what the big food giants saw, was us creeping up the rankings. So we get into the top 20 best-selling chocolate bars as a protein bar. So we shouldn't be there because we're not a chocolate bar, and we're 3 or 4 times the price of everything else. So we start creeping up. And I remember once it was August in 2018 because my one of my team told me that we'd made the top 5. We were the 4th best-selling chocolate bar in the country.
Who was above you at the time?
Well, at the time, I think from memory, we had Ferrero at number 1. I think number 2 was Snickers. Then it was like Dairy Milk, Us, and Mars, or something like that. So tell a lie, Dairy Milk was 5th.
And now just hold that thought a minute, because this is happening all ever so quickly. Hold that thought. You look at a chart and you see you're the 4th best-selling bar
I'm over the moon.
In the world. When you see all these brands that everyone's been eating for the last 40, 50 years, and you're whacked in at number 4. Yeah,
this is UK data, and it's UK data.
Unbelievable.
And it's UK data in supermarkets, so it's what we call our sort of measurable data, where we can actually buy the information. There's tons of other data out there, like we know we're number 1 on Amazon, but we can't really necessarily measure that because we don't know what everyone else is doing potentially. Plus, we've got this sports channel that no one else has because we've still got our spit and sawdust gyms. So we've got the Holland and Barratt's, which isn't measurable as well, and lots of the high streets. So, but we get this kind of IRI data. And
what's that? IRI? What's that?
It's just industry recognised data, basically. That's kind of like it's sort of irrefutable. So all the big retailers, they'll report their data like into an independent third party, and you can basically buy the data and see what everyone's doing. And I find out I'm 4th, and of course I'm straight on LinkedIn. We're the, as you do, look like a right bell end. We're the 4th best-selling, chocolate bar in the country, and consumers are loving it. Everyone's loving it, apart from the people who are kind of on that chart. So they complain to IRI, who complain to Grenade, who ring me because I was at home. I was ill. I had suspected mumps. That's how I remember it so well.
They complain about what?
They complain about the fact that they don't think it's correct and we shouldn't be there.
Is that right?
And a large industry food giant complained on who weren't in that chart, complained about the fact on behalf of someone else who was in the chart. So they're kind of all backing each other up here because we're the ankle biters.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get a phone call from my team going, "Oh, really sorry. I've complained. Can you remove your post?" I'm like,
what, from LinkedIn?
Yeah.
You're joking me.
So I'm like, why? And they're like, well, because they don't like it.
They can do one. You kept it up
based-
there, did you?
Of course I did.
Good.
So I said, well, is it factually incorrect? No, it's correct. Well, fuck it, it's staying there.
Yeah.
then. So, and again, look, I never, and I said about, not being disrespectful, and that sounds disrespectful. I don't mean to be like that, but I'm not going to be bullied into saying something that's completely true. So, or rather not saying something that's completely true. So, leave the post there. And I think, and of course, back then, again, it's always been hard. But, 2018, we're fourth. I'm thinking, fuck it, we'll get this to number one.
We'll have that.
We'll get this to
Yes,
number
mate.
one. And pretty much, I think 2 years later, maybe 3 years later, and certainly with Oreo, number one selling chocolate
Mate,
bar in
put
the
it
UK. Yeah, you're welcome.
That is wicked.
In that, in those measurable. So, and again, it's still rolling.
Love
but
it.
I think now, and look, I mean, brand owners, and I take this really personally. If you work for Cadbury's or Mars or Kellogg's or Ferrero, unless you are Giovanni Ferrero, these are kind of jobs to most people. They don't really take this kind of personally. So, when we found out we were the number one selling weight loss product in 2012, it was Maximus that told us. We didn't know. We hadn't got a clue. We're just out there, just kind of
doing it,
killing it. And doing what we can with our marketing budget of 500 quid. And Maximus had got like 12 million at the time to spend. One of their team rang us up and went, "You're the number one selling weight loss product in the UK. Congratulations." I went, "Really? I haven't got a clue." And again, but look, it's great, and you tick a box, but then you think, what's next?
I hear you.
What's next?
I hear you. I want to just
horrible.
go. I just want to go on that bar. You're making these bars out
We've
in
got to go
Holland.
into the plane crash as well at the moment.
Yeah,
We're
we'll
gonna
do
go back
that.
again.
I've got that stored. The bar. How much would a bar cost you when you originally done it? Going, you know what? I want to make a high protein, low sugared bar. When you're getting the cost for this, they're saying, well, actually, for you to make one bar, it's costing you £1.40. It's costing you £1. Can you remember what sort of price it was back then?
I can. I'm not going to say because they've changed a lot since then in
No,
terms
but
of price.
I'm talking back then. For you just to roughly make that bar, it must come out X for you to have the foresight and the balls to go, you know what? We're going for this. I don't care if it's 3 times more than a chocky bar. I'm going for it because this is the way forward.
Yeah, I mean, our sort of cost price on those bars would have been at the time. Still, our cost price would be probably 3 times what you could buy a confectionery bar for.
So what's that, £1?
So yeah, basically, give or take, in terms of the numbers, and that's why really the price was never really a factor because we knew we were going to be so much more expensive than everyone else. This was at the time as well. I remember, we've said about the fitness industry transitioning, and it was around the time that supermarkets again were being really they were very aware of sugar and the sugar tax, things like that. So they were really tasked with moving sugary products away from till points. To try and encourage consumers, then really, I guess, to make them less readily available.
Mate, they're everywhere.
Yeah, and they got really nothing to put back in the place. So it was actually Tesco's at the time, Ashwin Prasad, who was kind of number 2 or 3 at Tesco's at the time. He was really supportive. He was kind of a Grenade fan. He loved our sports nutrition stuff, and he understood what we were doing. And he just thought, from memory, he said, "I see what you're going to do. We'll support you. We'll try and get you at till points and stuff. But this is going to take years." The reality was, it took about 6 weeks because they didn't think that consumers would go, "I really want a chocolate bar and it's like 60p, but I won't, but I'll have something that's probably healthier. I'll have a Grenade bar, but I'll pay £2.50.
Yeah.
They just thought it was too big a leap.
Did they?
Because, how would they have known? If you probably would have asked consumers, and I don't like doing these surveys, don't really believe in them, but if they probably asked consumers if they pay 4 or 5 times more for the equivalent kind of item, they probably would have said no. But you can't ask consumers this stuff because consumers don't really know what they want. I love the Henry Ford quote: if they'd have asked consumers what they wanted, they'd have just wanted faster horses.
Yeah.
So, if you'd have said the same to consumers, they probably would have said,
Cheaper
well, a chocolate
chocolate.
bar but half the price. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't really like doing consumer surveys for those things. I think if you put something that's a good alternative in front of them, they'll probably choose.
What made you stand out? Was it the colour wrappers? Was it the names, the fun names you were going down? What made you stand out, apart from the taste?
Look, the name Grenade, because again, we've kind of built this hardcore following, really with sports nutrition, super distinctive. And at the till point, we stick out like a sore thumb, don't we? Yeah. It's bright orange. It's got the word Grenade all over it, and it makes sort of no sense. It's like when the mobile phone network came out and it was orange. It was just, what had that got to do with mobile phone network? Nothing. It was so unbelievably random that it stood out. And again, being quite commercial about it as well, we've got an extremely high rate of sale with Grenade. So a retailer will make more cash margin out of one of our products because, if they can have 30% of £3 or 30% of 50p, what would you rather have? Yeah. And also, we've got a higher rate of sale than those confectionery products, so more margin, higher rate of sale. I mean, we'd got petrol stations back in 2018, 2019, and we were out selling chocolate bars, really well-known chocolate bars, 10 to 1.
Yeah.
So you could make 13p on a chocolate bar, you could make £1.50 on us, and for every chocolate bar you sell, you'll sell 10 of ours.
Yeah.
No-brainer?
No-brainer.
So again, we built this through the petrol station network.
What made you choose the price of £2.50? Was it because that's the sum that needed to be for you to make it worthwhile?
It needed it to be that for us to make something to make it worthwhile doing, holding doing all the R&D, the tens of millions of pounds of investment in stock and whatever, but also retailer margin. Retailers need certain margin in
what margin do
stores.
retailer need?
I mean, varies,
50%?
but 50 to 60%. But that depending on the category and the food, some categories are higher, some are lower.
You're paying all your products up before, you're keeping them sweet, and whatever's left in them is pretty much yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like that petrol station network because remember, we've always sold sports nutrition stuff, and it's sold with a bit of assistance because you'd go into a GNC store, Holden Barratt, and they'd go, "Yeah, you want this or you want that and whatever." Going back to the success of our fat burner in GNC, we became 2% of their entire turnover.
Yeah.
So for every 28 products that were sold in a GNC, we were one of the 28. And like I said, 2% of their entire turnover, and we got stores selling 60, 70, 80 bottles of our fat burner a week.
What year for you was the game changer? Let's not talk about the initial investment. Let's not talk about Lion. Let's not talk about Mondays. What year was it the game changer as a brand that you were like, we're everywhere. Now we've just gone from that to that.
I mean, the game changer year, it's a tricky question because it's hard to see when this filters through. I'll have to give you a few. I mean, 2010 as our launch year and the tank in body power, game changer because we went from nothing to having a brand. So that's obviously a monumental year. I think that's 2013, 2014 period when we kind of have the epiphany that we're going to do bars. And we're going to transition, and we took some cash off the table. And something to recognise for the risk and the hard work that we put in. Because look, lots of people do this and get nothing.
Agree.
Lots of people get nothing. I was saying before, I've got friends who've got brands worth billions in the US, and I've said, you can do a lot with them. 3 founders, you can do quite a lot with 400 million.
Yeah.
And they've got no, we'll keep going. And I think then it becomes about the money. Yeah. And they've done well, but they've got a lot less. Yeah. And then you start thinking, then it's not about what you got, it's what you didn't get. And you start looking at this, I think, in the incorrect way. Yeah. But that 2015, the launch of that bar, I mean, even lockdown was big for us in terms of gyms being closed. We lost a lot of our customers overnight. People weren't going to the gyms. They weren't moving out and about. We're at the front of stores, but no one's in food stores. Yeah. And at the front of the stores, it's bloody hand sanitizer and toilet roll. It's not meal deal and it's not us. But, we got the tank out on the road. We petitioned Westminster to keep gyms open.
What Haskell on there as well?
That's right. Haskell's on the front. Yeah, he was on the front. Yeah, he was on the front. Yeah, he was on the front. So, I think the tank parked outside Parliament to keep gyms open again was big. Yep. It got on Lad Bible. Yep. I've been on Lad Bible individually as well. Every year there's kind of a big year for something. I mean, again, 2023. And 2021, the partnership with Cadbury's, a brand from, I grew up with working in Birmingham. I could smell the chocolate when I was working at the gym, up the road from Bourneville. 2023, I found out I'm being made an honorary colonel. Having chats with, Richard Branson over the years about buying the brand and being a mentor for Virgin Startup and, doing talks on Necker Island and stuff. It's like, just on this unbelievable journey that just kind of keeps on going. And I think that's why I always say I'm not successful because, we always go on to do something else. And, it's exciting what's around the corner, really. And I think that's why people like me and you, we never really stop because you're only here for that short time. You want to make the most of it. Yeah. And I'm the second person ever to be a civilian that's been, being made an honorary colonel. It's got to be signed off by the king. I mean, it's unbelievable. If someone said to me years ago, "You'll put a £500 million brand, and probably more, you'll be a mentor for Virgin Startup. Richard will be emailing. You said, well done. Oh, I wish I'd bought the brand. You'll be an honorary colonel in Royal Artillery. I'll meet Stas and Louis. That's obviously the highlight. I should have mentioned that one.
Wonderful brand, by the way, Through Dark.
Oh, I know, yeah. Give him a plug.
Yeah.
But also as well, I said earlier about founders working and sticking together. We just understand, unless you've been a founder and created something from nothing and taken a risk, no one will ever understand. And as soon as I can't think actually how Through Dark got on my radar potentially. I think one of my military friends was probably wearing it, and I didn't really pay much attention. And then I realised it was really nice stuff. And then I started looking at Stas and Louis and realised. Again, that obviously Lou is the brains of the outfit, but again, seeing these two amazing guys, and again being fantastic in their respective swim lanes, and I love helping, advising them, and again they're looking for some investment and stuff. So I was over the moon to do it, and I've got 5 criteria for investing in brands, and they tick every one. So it's really rare that you get that. And I think
what's your 5 criteria you look for?
So my 5 criteria for investing in brands are it's got to be a product, brand, or service that I love and I would buy. So tick. They've got to be backable founders who I really like, trust, and respect, and they've got to have that integrity and authenticity. Tick. You've got to have. You've got to have a sensible valuation. Everyone thinks their brand's worth billions or going to be worth billions. So, people message me and go, "Oh yeah, I've got this business and it's losing £3 million a week, but it's worth 20 billion. And do you want to buy 1% of it for £4 billion? No, not really, to be honest. Thanks anyway, but I think I'll pass.
I'll call you.
So you have to have a commercial discussion around, because this is a risk. Running a business is a risk, and I've invested in Through Dark, and I could, it could do really well. I could lose my money. Who knows? So sensible valuation.
And you're going to invest in Eventful Loves podcast.
Obviously, yes, by 0.01% of that one. But something as well doesn't need too much time. I'm still full-time CEO.
How old are you today?
Grenade. I'm 47.
Okay.
Because we're the same age, aren't we, I think? Are you older than me? Or
No,
I can't remember.
younger.
No, younger. Oh, yeah,
Can't you tell?
You wish. No, you look older, that's why. You did that life jacket stuff I just gave you. So it's something that doesn't need too much time. Again, it's amazing you can tick the first 3 and then people want you running their business for them. And you're like, I haven't got time to do that. So, and then the 5th is probably the most important. It's got to be fun.
Got to be fun.
Because imagine if you tick all those, the 4, and it's like, this is a bit boring.
Piss boring, this. I'm not
really
involved.
boring.
Yeah.
So if I want to be bored, I'll ring you.
Yeah.
But
if I want to be bored, I'll get you on the podcast.
That's true. 9 hours later. Yeah. How are your cameras doing, guys? How are your batteries doing? So that's what I look for, and it's quite rare. And again, I've only got limited time. But also, I'm so excited.
For the future.
Yeah, but for me, but also for like Stas and Louis for Through Dark, because I know what they've got to come.
Yeah.
And it's hell of a journey.
Yeah.
But I think there's a monstrous brand in there.
I think it's turning into a monstrous brand.
Yeah.
We're very lucky to have them on board as a brand partner.
Yeah, definitely.
Wonderful, brand.
Just don't bankrupt them, because I see the financials. So we'll have a board meeting in January. I'll be saying, you can get rid of that marketing line for a start. That's what you're forking out for that shit. No offense. I think we've talked enough about those two. That's why I'm croaky, actually. I was down there last night. They had a product launch in London. So you can imagine, I don't really drink, but you can imagine a group of hundreds of elite
Special
military
service,
personnel
getting on it.
yes, in London. Yes, it was not a massive piss up.
Did your life change at all? We're talking money here, and you say money doesn't affect you. And did your life change from 2018 to? Did your life change when you got the big payout in 2021? Did anything change, or were you?
No, not really.
No, okay,
not really.
Okay.
You do. I suppose you do. Money does one thing really: give you options.
Yep.
That's it.
And freedom.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily with the freedom, because the thing is,
maybe not freedom if you're involved with private equity, because are they sort of controlling you more than you would be if you're an entrepreneur by yourself?
I suppose, we probably didn't quite finish this one, did we, potentially? I think I think the nice thing probably about the PEs, it does give you some structure.
Yep.
So it does professionalise you, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Because like I said, I'm a pirate, so you can easily run this like it's the Wild West. But at some point, this might come and bite you. So it does make sure you tick more compliance boxes.
It protects you.
And, it does give you some protection.
Yeah.
And I think, look, if I go into the office and I can spend time on product development and R&D and marketing and whatever, or I can spend time on operations and finance and legal entities and blah, blah, you can imagine how that's going to go. So, but you get people for that.
Do you regret not having kids?
I don't at the moment, no.
No,
I don't. Whether I'll change my mind on that in the future, who knows? But currently, no.
Are you saying no because you haven't got kids, or are you saying no genuinely like I'm actually got no interest in kids?
I don't really have any interest. I wouldn't really have the time. I don't come from a very big family, to be honest.
If you had a kid, would you get him to understand the value of a pound note? Or would he be having all the things that he wanted?
This is probably one of the reasons I probably wouldn't make a very good dad. I think because I think I'd want them to really go out and graft. And to be fair, I've chatted to quite a few people actually, of friends of mine who have done well, who have got children. And I've said, do you mind me asking like a personal question? I said, I actually asked, I was with someone who's worth 5 or 6 billion last week, and I actually asked him about what he was doing with his kids. And he was saying they're generally quite ungrateful. But I think one of the best examples of anyone that I know, I hope this is true, I've heard with Gordon Ramsay, where I think he matches what his kids earn.
Yep.
So I think they've gone out, and I know Jack's in the Marines, and I think it's quite nice if, and I know actually with Richard's daughter, with Holly, she went to become a paediatrician.
That's right.
So I know she's working in Virgin now, but I think that, her passion was to go and become a doctor. Yeah. So I think it's amazing if you could have children and just give your kids the freedom to do literally anything they wanted.
But they'll take it for granted.
But that's not their fault. If they're born into unbelievable wealth.
It's a fine line though, isn't it? Giving them everything they kind of want to actually, and also like with my boy, I'm quite tough with him. Like he can have most things he wants, but I don't go and do that.
Yeah, I mean,
just to make him understand.
I've got wealthy friends with kids like nurses and stuff, which again, is an incredibly admirable profession, which obviously isn't well paid. They're not lugging their paychecks home, but anything they earn, he will match.
Yeah.
And which again makes it a better paid job. They're doing something they love, and it's kind of being well paid. But it's linked to it, like the parent would match it. Again, I won't say that the person who it is, but so I think that's quite nice. You obviously don't want to sort of spoil your kids, but then again, you can't take it with you, and you want them to have all the things that you didn't have. I mean, look, as I said, with my family, they worked unbelievably hard, for very, very little money. So I grew up and know the value of a fiver, which I think is really important.
Agree.
I think
but that's the beauty of having cash.
Yeah.
Like, this is a whole nother subject we can talk about, but taking cash out of the system is making people, I believe, not understand the value of a pound note. Because it's not, I'm taking 40 quid out and I'm spending and I'm getting 20 quid back. Thank you very much. Tap, go, and then realise how much debt they're building up. But let's save that because we could talk hours on that. And there's loads of subjects we could talk hours on. We've been going 2 hours now.
Really?
Yeah.
Feels like longer.
Yeah, it doesn't. We could go on for another couple of hours quite easily.
Make this a 6-parter.
Maybe we could do
a box set.
Maybe we could do a part 2.
We should do a part 2 and
Definitely.
a part 3.
And we'll start thinking of some different subjects and just have wicked conversations.
Do you know what'd be interesting? It'd be really good to actually, if you ask some listeners again, what would they like to dig more into?
Well, anyone listening here on YouTube, whatever, any questions you've got for Al or myself, put them down in the comments there and we can have a look through and maybe a part 2 later on down in 2024.
Do a Q&A or something, maybe do a live Q&A.
Yeah,
because as you know, my family live in Bournemouth, so I'm down there quite a bit, and I feel obligated to come and try and help Stas and Louis from Through Dark in some way, shape or form, so I'm down there quite a bit for them, so otherwise I wouldn't bother coming to see you. But but it's interesting.
Just get your checkbook out.
Well, do you know as well, I genuinely, I don't do many podcasts, because they all take all day. But I don't get time. But then when we met and got on, and then obviously the first one was a bit of a misfire because they left the lens cap on, so we had to come back and do it again.
You flew down with your missus, flew down to the airport, got here, and after, 40 minutes,
thought this camera's not happy.
The camera's burning, wasn't it? It was burning up. We're like, we're going to have to do this another time.
I think, God, this content might be good. You were sweating. Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Mate,
as well.
Al,
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
You know what? I really, really enjoyed that.
Don't sound so surprised.
No, but I genuinely really enjoyed it, especially when we got into the old entrepreneur show. It gets us juices flowing, doesn't it?
Oh,
bam,
I know. Do you know,
bam.
This
chat
stuff,
to other entrepreneurs, it's
infectious.
Powerful.
It's infectious. It really is.
Because we've all been there. We know what's
And we'll save for another one. We'll save my plane crash.
Oh yeah, the plane crash. Oh, mate.
I knew you'd
Part
forget.
two. I actually
two.
didn't forget. I had it in my mind, but I looked at the clock when it's 2 hours. Jesus, that'd be another 20 minutes. So let's save it for a part 2.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
You're a proper gentleman. You certainly lived an eventful life, and you've created a really solid British brand that's going to stay around for years, and you're going to be known as the man, with your wife Jules, with respect, who set up that business.
Awesome. And no one can take that away from us. So
Congratulations,
awesome.
mate.
Thanks. Cheers,
Massive
brother.
respect.
Thanks very much.
Good man.
Thanks
now.
for having me.
Cheers, mate.
Take care.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Can you do us a favour and subscribe to the channel? It's totally free and it massively helps our show. Cheers guys.